All right, let's stream. Am I streaming? I wonder if there's like just a better way to like know that you're streaming. Yeah, okay, there you go. Now I know. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. In your face. I was gonna do a video, but I planned on doing a video, but then I was like, do I want to do a video though? Does I actually want to do a video? And I don't think I do. I think I want to just kind of hang out, you know? Oh my God. Whatever I cough, oof, messed up my throat. Oh, I got like one person watching me right now. This is awesome. Let me take a sip of my drink. Oh my God, it went from 1 to 13. Happy Friday. Happy Easter for those of you who celebrate. Yeah, I was just thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna do a video, and I have like quite a few topics written up. I counted it the other day. I think it's about 30 different topics. Um, and I put like a few more. So I feel like I've really found a good system here. And me being able to mix between the two, I think if I start using shorts too as a tool, I don't think I'll miss a video any single day. Even when I was sick, I was able to still shoot out like a trash short, but it was, in my mind, it counts, homies. It freaking counts. And dude, doing all of these videos and just sticking to it has really given me so much motivation as an artist that I haven't felt, oh man, probably truly in 3 to 4 years. I mean, maybe I think I'm even still lying to myself. I would like to believe it wasn't that long ago. Because the last few years I've been feeling really overworked. I've been feeling really busy. So it feels a lot more. It just feels a lot closer. But if I was being honest, I think even when I was at my peak of doing some of the coolest work I ever done, I really enjoyed doing. I've just been super motivated, more so lately than I have been in quite a long time. Yeah, if I had to put a number on it, shoot, yeah, maybe like 7 years. I had to think about it. 'Cause it was before the pandemic. I was still very much excited about making art. I made art pretty consistently every single day. Um, and then the pandemic happened, and then I started taking on more and more art directing roles, and the combination of those two things, I just think it just messed me up. Oh no, I was painting on the wrong layer. It's all right. We got ways. What I'll do is I'll just swoop it out. So I'm gonna do a couple things here. Ooh, yeah, we want this to be blood red, dude. Can't settle for anything other than, yeah, but just lately, it's been feeling good. I've been feeling real good, friends. And then I posted a video yesterday talking about long projects and stuff that I just had on my mind. Because again, when you're inspired and stuff, like you just want to make more stuff. You just want to create things. And some people suggested a couple folks that they really like what they do stuff like this kind of storybooks. One person was mentioned, Simon. I always forget how to say his name. I believe he's Simon Stollenhack. And I was like, this is exactly the kind of thing I would love to do. Which is what he does is that he will make these kind of art books, but they're like kind of worlds, you know. And I've done this in the past, but I only did it once, and it was still wasn't really that. It was just more just kind of like my art of a very specific persuasion. But after looking at that, I was like, oh, shoot, dude, like that looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, I might really dig into that. So right now, all I've been doing has been brainstorming and thinking of potential, essentially like a story art book, like a book that would be heavily driven by world building. I'll stick into one aesthetic, right, and then slowly but surely build out the the book. And I think that would be cool. I think a lot of people would like it. I think people would support it, and it'll be something obviously that I'll be very proud of. And it's one of those things that I believe in. I believe that that's something that most people ought to begin doing more and more, is to kind of create their own projects. I think that although the landscape for work, at least for somebody who's a little bit more seasoned, tends to still be um, pretty open. Like I still have opportunities here and there. Um, I still think it's smart to just begin to build out stuff for oneself. And so, yeah, just thought I'd kind of share that. I don't know what exactly I want to tell. I have like a lot of ideas. I have a couple ideas that are like just heavy horror themed. I love horror stories and horror worlds. But then I also just like kind of like my weird abstract alien worlds that I draw, and like these weird kind of fantasy worlds. And I've always felt too that there needs to be like a new fantasy world in general. What I mean by this is that you tend to see a lot of people who are driven by some of the classic token aesthetics, and I think even that is borrowed from old aesthetics and fairy tales. You know, if you think about like goblins and orcs and dwarves and elves, like these types of things, I believe we can kind of evolve past it, is what I'm trying to get across, and that there's maybe something else that can be reimagined that feels new, and it's like this new and interesting kind of world, you know? Because right now, like I said, a lot of stuff is pretty familiar, and I'm curious if I could come up with like a whole new fantasy, you know, with a whole new set of rules and a whole new set of interesting and fascinating characters, and just kind of tell it from the perspective of like some sort of traveler or something like this, and see where that goes, see where that takes us. You feel? And then maybe it can be like a companion to people who do play role playing games. Use it as like a tool to basically come up with, yeah, like a new fantasy campaign. Just swapping out stuff with my stuff. That could be cool. That could be fun. Because think about it, like that's what I do for a living, right? Like people come to me and they're, hey, bro, I got an idea. I got an idea. I was thinking lasers with sharks riding them, you know, like a laser or a shark riding laser. And yeah, I would just draw that, you know. I'm gonna take a drink right now. I'm gonna drink some more. Oh, there's a lot of people chatting here. There's a lot of people chatting. I'll get to that in just a second. We're excited that it's live. I will respond. I will respond to you. I will look and see what I can see, and then I'll just give some commentary. Um, but yeah, I've always felt that, and to be fair, it's not like other people haven't tried and try to investigate these types of things. I think people have. It's just yeah, we keep liking kind of the same old. Like if you look at a show like or a movie like Dune. Dune's pretty cool. It's pretty fresh in the modern cinema, but even that story is like old as fuck. It's not like it's brand new like that. That's been around for a while. It's just only lately has it been kind of put into mainstream popularity, and you know, with good old Timothée Chalamet, good old Timothée Chalamet. Um, I don't know where I got that from. But me and my friends, whenever we talk about Timothée Chalamet, that's how we say his name. I actually have no idea if that's something that we saw and we just been saying it, or we just somebody mispronounced it and we just been calling him Timothée Chalamet. But I like that actor. I think he's a pretty cool actor. Um, but with the population or popularity of that, uh, is great because it is like a new world of new fantasies, and it's cool. It's in my mind deeply welcomed. I am very excited that it's there. I'll be honest too. I didn't like the first Dune movie. Um, it really put me to sleep. I could not watch it. But then the second Dune movie, I was like, dude, this is epic. This is such a cool freaking world and so cool characters. I think because it was like less exposition and it was mostly like stuff was happening. That black and white scene, which was like I think was filmed with like it was actually filmed in infrared. Dude, that was just cool. That just felt incredible. But yeah, there needs to be more of this. Another great example of like modern fantasy is, you know, stuff like Star Wars. Star Wars does a really good job. At least it did, but it's modern. Like since the '70s, that's pretty fresh. You know, Pixar kinds of creates lots of cool worlds and universes. Like I like their Inside Out universe. I mean, it's contemporary, but it's like this fascinating like take on mentality and stuff like that, and emotions. It's really cool. But yeah, you don't see a lot because if you think like there's a 28 years later that came out, and 28 days later, like obviously is a zombie film, but it's like modern. Like 28 years later is when that's coming out. Sorry. Um, but even though that's like kind of treading on something that's already been told, even the original premise was based off of something that was kind of already around. Nosferatu, I saw that. That's pretty cool. But again, it's like that's also not that new, you know. Video games tend to do a really good job with this. Video games, and again, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is my biz. This is what I do. I like people introduce new ideas to me, and I come in and I try to reimagine those worlds. You know, Marathon is a good example of that. Whether people will like it or not, I saw pretty mixed reviews from the launch. Uh, I don't feel that way. I feel I'm a pretty, as most of you guys probably gathered, I'm a very optimistic individual. I think generally speaking, you know. So I tend to not get too caught up with these types of feelings pretty often. Um, I either will play it or not, you know. And to be frank, I probably won't play it. There's nothing inherently interesting about it, other than the visuals. So I don't know. Like I feel like if I wanted to play an extraction shooter, it still seems obvious to me to play games like Escape from Tarkov, which is like the king of that genre. You know, like just play the best, and if there's a new best, then okay, I'll play that. But um, time will tell if I want to play that. But that's a good example of like a new IP that is original. It's like a new world, somewhat. But even still, I think it's not as imaginative as it probably could be. You know, like this modern cyberpunk aesthetic. It's like graphic punk. It's like super graphic designy. So I think it'd be cool to just come up with worlds and just show people shit. And if people want to do something with it, like just come at me, bro. Let's talk about it. You know, I have lots of ideas about what things can be. I'm a big fan of science fiction. I'm a big fan of like novel storytelling. But I understand it's very niche, for good reason, because people like the familiar, and that's okay. But sometimes you got to have that one breakthrough where it just challenges it all. Oh, you know, there's another good modern. Well, I guess it's yeah, it is. I'm not gonna retract this. Something like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is another great example of like modern fairy tale, even though a lot of it is derived from historical stuff, like most things are. But it is truly like of its own making, and I think that's why it did so well. It's had like such a beautiful, um, crescendo to it. But it's like it's hard to imagine that that's that because it's like comic book stories and stuff. Yeah, like Superman too, all these other like DC characters like Batman, like all of that stuff, not just Marvel. But superheroes and all that stuff is also just fun, fascinating ways of imagining the world. And so I want to just contribute to this. You feel? I want to be a part of this thing. And when I was looking at Simon's stuff, I was like, yeah, this is kind of what this guy's doing. Like, he's more contemporary, at least from all I saw. Like, he takes like kind of like a modern aesthetic. It's like this beautiful, and there's another artist I believe that does the same style. I like it a lot. Where it's like this kind of modern world, very contemporary world, you know. But he put like a robot in the background, it's like a couple kids playing on a soccer field, and then there's like a fucking robot just chilling, you know. And it's cool. It's really cool. I'm into it. But I think my books would be along the lines of some of my idols, like Wayne Barlow, Geiger. I always forget how to say this guy's name, but Belinsky. Where when you look at their worlds, it's like, the fuck is this place? you know? And I'm a big fan of that. I think we, as artists, need to do that more. You know, we need to be people who are like showing others, like, nah, dude, like we've been spoon fed fantasies, man. Like, let's get some real new fantasies up in here that are fucking weird. Some will stick and some won't. Some will stick for their audience, and then years will go by, and then one young director who fell in love with that stuff when they were young now has the power to make their own projects. Will be like, hey, artist who made this art book, let's just use me as an example. Let's say somebody takes my book and says like, I love the world you created, like 10 years from now, and they're like, yeah, I want to make a movie based off of this stuff. It's kind of like how the Warhammer universe is too. It's like that's what's happening recently. And then they turn into a cool thing, and then maybe it does blow up and it's really cool. But I need to put that content out there. Right now, it's just like kind of art, not like it's not contiguous. It's not this like this consistent world. Like I had an idea of one of my concepts that I did. I was looking at it and I was like, this is pretty cool what I did. And I call it the tar fisherman. And he's like standing on stilts and he's fishing on these like this tar pit out in the middle of wherever they're at. And the prey in this instance that he's fishing basically hungers on bone. Like they can smell and like basically love just skeletal structures. They like bones and such. Oh wait, hold on. My wife's here. Give me a second to help her out. Buenas noches. All right, sorry. My wife needed help real quick to find my little baby's blanket. So this tar fisherman is just hunting. Let me see if I can find this image so you guys can visualize it alongside me, friends. Oh yeah, found it right away. It's a pretty modern piece of mine. Okay. So this piece right here. And he's like standing on stilts. He's hunting these critters that basically thirst for skulls and bones for whatever reason. And it's like this fantasy world where maybe the minds of these people is the residue is still inscribed inside of the inner parts of their skulls. So this thing is, hunts for that, and this guy's just chilling, waiting for it, trying to keep his own fucking skull as far away from the ground as possible. And has a metallic arm, has this cape, has all this stuff. All this stuff has maybe some purpose, but that's the kind of the theme. And I was like also thinking, what if this is like on an obelisk and he's actually like standing like sideways? Because I was thinking of how I would like visualize this or animate this. Actually, if we were doing it, it would be like that. And I like was thinking about it a lot, like what this would look like. Let me show you this obelisk real quick so you guys can understand that this is what I do. So I'll just conceptualize it for you guys. So like this is just these kind of like oiled up, tarry ass obelisks that go for potentially miles in every direction potentially. And then maybe there's these like villages on the base of these because they are essentially fishing on these monoliths. And that's as far as I've gotten in terms of like what this is about. But the reason why I'm like even just kind of sharing this is because that's like super novel. Like almost every aspect of it aside from the fishing part has something interesting, and it's just an interesting mixture of ideas that makes me want to create that kind of story, and like create that world, and like how you would reveal that to the viewer that this is happening, because from the singular image, you might not even be sure that what I just explained is actually happening, that he's like tarred and he's like on this thing, and that there's like maybe not even real gravity, because I remember when I was watching the Warhammer short, and there's this moment where they were going down the trench, and then all of a sudden they just start standing up on the sides of the wall of that trench. And I'm like, yeah, why the fuck not, dude? Like, this shit's tight. Like, I was watching this short. I'm not a big Warhammer person. Like, I don't know enough about the lore to kind of speak with authority. But when I saw that, I was just like, dude, this shit's badass. And they had like, when they pulled out like this coffin looking thing the whole time, like this chest, and then they just like lay it down, and it's like this priest like wired up, and he's just like praying and saying these enchantments to like basically protect them from this kind of psychotic creature thingy that can like get into their brains and use their greatest fears to basically make them bleed out of their heads. And I'm just like, dude, more of this, please. Because that's such a novel idea. It's incredibly fascinating. And it makes people think. It makes people wonder, And I think as artists, like I said earlier, we're not doing enough of this, y'all. Like, we need to do more of this. We need to get people's imagination jumping. And if there was ever a time in history, maybe the reason why is because we were riding high, man. Like, things were good. There's so much cool stuff after World War II, Oh, speaking of like being inspired by like the consequences of the challenges of the world you're living in, like this is kind of what I'm getting at. But like speaking of World War II, like when America dropped nukes onto Japan, like that was the catalyst that spawns the story of Godzilla, because it's just like, how can you fathom what's happening here, you know, and how do you kind of convey these emotions through some sort of visual analogy. And Godzilla is perfect. And it's still one of my favorite, again, another modern, like monster movies in general, another modern folklore, you know? But what I'm getting at now is like there are a lot of things. There's a lot of conflicts that are happening right now. And as an artist, as somebody who can create something, I started thinking a lot about what I've been feeling about things just in general. Yeah, and it's clear to me that I absolutely have a lot of feelings about a lot of things. And I feel like I can create metaphors around them. And maybe people will relate to them when I create them. Like right now, one of them, there's a couple that are in my mind, like lawlessness and how fickle that all feels. And then like world consequences, like consequences that are happening at a global stage, and how it feels when you're so hopeless, like how hopeless one feels because of this. And I have a couple ideas that I can visualize and create analogies, visual analogies around the way I feel about these things. Like that's how I feel. I feel like there's a lot of these things that are happening, and I feel pretty helpless. Like that's my honest feelings about some of this stuff. So maybe I can create a world, a universe that reflects that feels like an escape from that, but it's also like, at least in this fantasy world, the heroes and the anti-heroes and the villains, we could do something about it. You know, we can have some resolution that could actually inspire real heroes. You know, that's usually what art can do. That's obviously not my goal, just to be honest. It's like I'm not trying to just make art to inspire generations. I'm just saying I'm going to try to make my art inspirational. That's all. And so whether it inspires you to make more art, hell yeah. If it inspires you to become a revolutionary hero, oh, well, that was an accident. I didn't mean for that to happen. So be it. But that's what tends to make good art. Like when I think about all of the engineers and scientists that quote like why they got into it from like movies that they saw. Like when I saw Terminator, oh, it made me want to get into technology. When I saw Back to the Future, I wanted to learn how to make flying cars, you know. When I saw this space movie or when I saw this fantasy movie, it happens all the time. You hear it all the time. And yeah, right now I think we're just not getting enough new fantasy, new folklore, yo. You know? That has some commentary and some analog to what's going on these days. So yeah, you guys might be joining me on this ride. Appreciate that. Yeah, and it all sparked from just doing more videos on YouTube and then just talking with people through YouTube, and I'm just like, damn, dude, I got some stuff I want to try to make. Yeah. But anyway, let me read through some of these comments. Let me take a subtle break here. Some people might have some questions. I'll be happy to answer real quickly. I don't have too much time either. I just wanted to hop on here, chat with y'all for a bit. Let's see. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Big love. Yep, yep. I was the one. I was the chosen. Too late for me to draw along. Nope. Draw along. Easter falls on 4/20. It does? I didn't know that. I don't really celebrate Easter. Not even as like an American holiday. I just, not for religious or holiday purposes. I don't know when the last time we painted an egg. I have an odd question. My art instructor never gives me compliments, even if there is a substantial improvement in my work. It's quite discouraging to keep going. Oh, I don't know if that's a question. That's more like seems like you're venting to me. Um, Listen, I think a good art instructor ought to recognize improvement. I don't think you need to have to constantly compliment somebody either. I think you can be like, yes, there's some improvement here. But I will say that I just think that maybe you just need to run in better circles too. Like I always tell people that you should outsource your opinion every so often, meaning that you have people that will tell you what they think about your work, so you can kind of have a better worldview of what makes your work work and what makes your work not work, you know? And so to me, if you have an art instructor, especially if you respect them, because they might be great at what they do and they might be great at teaching, and it might be nice to get them to give you some affirmation, but you're not owed that. So running in better circles allows you to like potentially find people that will give you that affirmation and will compliment you. But again, the reverse is also, you got to be wary. You don't want people that's all they do is compliment and give you good feedback, because it might soil the ego. So hopefully that helps you out. But I haven't seen your work, but good job on improving. Keep on drawing. Feels like you've been underground, my guy. What? Oh, I see what you're saying. I've been posting. Uh, I've been posting lots of YouTube videos, so I've just been around indirectly, not directly. But anyway, how's it going? New to the channel. Been listening to the vids to get my last minute art dose in before bed lately. Awesome. I appreciate that. Before I knew your videos, all my drawings took like from 4 to 8 hours. Now I can pull decent things for my level in 15 minutes. That's great. Glad to hear it. What is your document dimensions? I think it's just like 8.5 by 11. Here, let's just look at it. Let's put it in inches. Okay, it's 13 by 21. And then pixels, so I see what happened. This was like a 4K squared image, and I just expanded it vertically to make it more portrait. But I typically start off with a 4K square image. And in the past, I used to just start with the US paper format, 8.5 by 11. But now I'm pretty square. If you have some structure design, something that may be modeled, I don't know. Go through my body of work, you can probably find it. Yeah, I appreciate the compliments. You guys are all saying nice things about the stuff. I'm not sure. Oh, the art direction of the movie Inside Out Worldly is outworldly. I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I'm sure we're talking about something I just said. I don't know about a folk guitar, but we'll see. Oh yeah. The Silver Surfer piece. Yeah, I just saw that you got I think it's you that got like 100K likes. It was awesome. Incredible work. Johnny Makes Comics. Marathon Trainer was amazing. Same person who worked on Love, Death, and Robots. Well, the person that we're talking about here who worked on the marathon cinematic trailer, is the legendary Alberto Mielgo. A bud of mine. I don't know him on a personal level. We just talk from time to time on Instagram. But yeah, he's really nice guy as far as I know. And he's also he created pretty much the art direction for one of my favorite animated films and favorite movies ever, which is The Spider-Verse. But I think maybe his vision was pretty much taken, and then they're like, we don't need this person anymore. Or maybe he had some other reservations. I actually never talked to him about that. I don't think he would ever share that with me either, to be honest. I just have some suspicions that that's probably what it was. I hear a lot of things too, like a lot of the animators like left the studio because just unwieldy amount of work for that project. And I heard it's going to come out in 2027. Oh, yeah. So tired. And so Alberto Maego also worked on The Witness, which was fucking awesome. He also worked on 2 episodes out of the Love, Death, and Robots show. One of which was one of my favorites, and I don't know what the name. I think it is called The Witness, isn't it? I don't know. It was the one with like the golden fish lady dancing on the lake. That was so cool. It was incredible. 3rd season. Okay, and then yeah, it looks like he did that trailer. It's funny because I followed that guy for years before he did anything like any of the stuff that I talked about here. Before he even did Spider-Verse, I was a big fan of his stuff. He used to do this like hand animated stuff a long time ago. He was incredibly skilled for fucking a decade even before the Spider-Verse, y'all. And just somebody gave that guy a shot, and they weren't wrong. Let's see what else we got going on here. I'm just gonna skip all the way through. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple. One person wrote, because I'm just reading through. So one person wrote, "What do you do about making art that even when you show it, people basically want to silence or attack it?" Well, I mean that's the thing. I think for me, like just to be clear, like a lot of what I try to avoid on my YouTube channels explicitly, and as of now publicly, because this is just not the person I want to be, is try to stay away from heavy political opinions and really stand on them for too long. And there's a lot of world events that I can understand what you're talking about, and there's a couple instances of stuff that I think is happening that becomes incredibly challenging for what you're getting across to remark, because one group on one of those ends will have very strong opinions, and it's really hard to feel like you're sane, because when you make those points, everyone, or at least seems like there's a good contingency of people that will feel very strongly about it, And I think that's the thing about art, isn't it? That for me, maybe talking about it, maybe being more less derivative and being more explicit, that's going to take a lot of bravery and a commitment that you might want to just accept, especially if you believe in the cause and you think you're fighting for the right thing. But art can also be derivative. Like it can be a commentary. People love, for instance, the X-Men, right? But a lot of people lately have some pretty interesting opinions one way or another about the civil rights movement in this current state of world politics and United States politics specifically. And it's interesting to me because I know a lot of these people who might have these opinions may still love the movies and the shows that were like Stanley himself, like said, like these were incredibly inspired by the civil rights movement and what folks went through during that time. Just using mutants, like guy with freaking claw hands and one guy with lasers shooting out of his eyeballs, right? And because it was so derivative, it created this feeling of like people can understand and respect the commentary that's being said there. I think Dune, I saw this video about what Dune was about. Like, I think it was also about just kind of like the economic cost of like just greed and I forget what else was in there. I don't want to misinterpret it again. I'm not a Dune head, so someone in here might have a little bit more historical accuracy there. But it was very much a commentary on the world events at that time. You know, like I think the writer had a very strong political opinion about stuff and just made a whole fucking world and series that kind of allowed people to see those arguments in a world that doesn't exist. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make here. So maybe that's a route that you might want to go through, right? Like, for instance, drawing a picture of, let's say, Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris has a strong reaction. People will have a strong reaction. I had a buddy of mine, he literally just did a portrait of Kamala Harris before the election in November of last year. And I went to his comments, and people like lost their ever given minds. They were flaming him. And whether you support or not, that was crazy to me. Because he didn't even say anything. He just drew a picture of her. And people ripped out. My buddy Beeple is notoriously doing something like that. Seems like every other week he's got one image and people are losing their goddamn minds, you know? But they're not as derivative. I think one of the ones that went like crazy is like the stuff that he did with JD Vance and Elon Musk, you know? Like, that's pretty on the nose, direct commentary, modern commentary. I'm saying I myself am not that interested in doing that kind of quote unquote art, you know? I'm more interested in making something that I think can make people see my feelings about the world just from a different perspective that doesn't really exist. And it might allow people to take a couple steps back and understand kind of the consequences of maybe modern day, you know? There's a moment that I read about where Einstein, and this is like less political, but this is more just, again, the power of fiction. Einstein read like a book, like a science fiction book, where, and this is still like hard for me to even visualize, so I'm going to conceptualize for it. I'm going to visualize it for you guys. In the sci-fi book, it was like talking about like time travel of some sort, right? And the way that they describe time travel was simple. They're like, you know, like our perception of the world, it's like, here's our eyeball, is when light hits our eye, right? As soon as like a light comes on, and let's say it bounces off of stuff, whatever, and all of these things go into our eyeball, that's how we visualize the world in front of us. That's how we see the world. And this has a speed, right? Like how fast that gets to us. Now, obviously, most lights that we experience it feels instantaneous. We don't even recognize the delay. But if you go far enough, like people found that the sun takes 7 minutes to get its light to us. So we're always looking at 7-minute old light. Okay. And this science fiction novel essentially was saying, maybe like you can see the past if you can teleport so far away and then like have like a telescope or some sort of light capturing device, you know? Like, let's imagine you travel 1 million light years away from the Earth, of that light that bounced off of the Earth on this side of the planet, like let's say the sun did that and back, and you traveled 1,000 or 1,000,000 light years away, like you teleported, and then you create like some sort of like capturing device to capture all the light, you would be able to see what the Earth looked like 1,000,000 years ago. And that was kind of like some of the subtle premise of the sci-fi novel that Einstein read. And this was just like some probably sci-fi or some science enthusiast writer who took something that they understood about light and how it travels and how we perceive it, and they just had this really interesting idea of like going far away to see the past Earth. Like that's a fascinating concept, and that sparked and inspired Einstein to think of relativity, because this is relative. And that's what sparked and started having him think outside the box of like modern science and physics at that time. You know what I mean? This is what I mean, what us artists can provide to others that might not be artists, but might become the greatest, you know, innovators of the world, you know? And we need to start pulling our weight, is all I'm getting at. Like, I don't think it's happening enough. Like in this modern day of technology and access to more and more epic artwork, I think only like most concept artists might be doing this. But we're also like using a lot of our talents to just get paid. So I'm curious if there could be a renaissance now of just with AI rearing its robotic little head. Kind of makes me feel like, okay, well, let me show you why human creativity is still OP as fuck, you know? So in going back to kind of like the political aspect of it, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, to be honest. But I do think that if this is like heavy on your heart, again, some of the greatest creators, some of the greatest commentators that use art as their platform sometimes subvert through fiction, because it just is, if it allows people to see it a little bit more objectively, because it's more fantasy. I think this is like a fair critique on modern kind of commentary that you might see, because it might feel more like pandering and like right on the nose. I think it needs to be way more imaginative, and it needs to be a lot more believable, and it should use the consequences of the world that we're living in today as fuel of like what are the kind of the cliff notes of what's going on and what we're dealing with, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. Hope that helps inspire you to think a bit differently. But again, I also am not trying to say that you shouldn't try to be more direct, because maybe that's just more important, and maybe you are that voice that can do that. I just don't feel I am that person, and I think that's okay. I think it's okay to not have to, you know, do that kind of stuff. Again, there are times where people do like put it right on the nose, and sometimes it lands. I remember when I saw Saving Private Ryan, which is a clear commentary on just the ruthlessness of war. You know? Like, even there was a moment where that Nazi was stabbing the guy, and we know we shouldn't be rooting for the Germans and all that stuff, but there was a moment before when they didn't kill the guy, and it was showing a bit of the humanity, and then it showed him kill that other guy later, and you're just like, damn, dude, this is tough. And then the one soldier that didn't do anything when he could have saved, then later kills that same German soldier, you know, like with no questions asked. And it's just like, yeah, I get it. Fucking brutal, you know? And I think it was just a great war movie. It like a lot of war movies at the time or before was pretty glorifying. And I think Saving Private Ryan, at least for me, my first experience with a movie that subverted my understanding of war. Like, I had a peripheral knowledge how dangerous and how sketch war is, but that movie really sat with me. I was like, woo, yeah, this is tough. This is a tough one, you know? Versus like Indiana Jones, you know? Where it's just like, it's way less subtle. Like, they're bad guys. Which is not a war movie. Let me think of a war movie that's like like glorifies war. I think I can't think of one on the top of my head. I mean, I guess Pearl Harbor did a pretty like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to fucking war, but while we're at it, we're gonna fall in love with the same girl, you know? And like took one of the most tragic attacks in American history. It'd be like if somebody made like 9/11 movie, but it was like a romance movie, you know, around that terrorist attack. You know, it's there's something about like it wasn't glorious to get us into World War II. Is all I'm getting at. Um, Even if it was necessary, it's just it's just as we're seeing now with modern war. It's ugly. It's fucking ugly. I don't think there's any winners in war. It just sucks. And so, yeah, again, if you want to go like straight at it with your art, be my guest. That is a road I do not know how to even remotely begin to give you insight on. Nor should I. Everyone has their own opinions on what they want to do. But like I said, if I'm going to do something and I have my thoughts, my own commentary, I think it literally is just going to be incredibly similar to something like what Dune did with their storytelling and why they were inspired to tell the story. Like when the writer was inspired to tell the story he wanted to tell. You know? Because I can only speak to how I feel about things and see if it is relatable to others. But anyway, I think I'm going to start wrapping this up. There's a lot of really great there's a lot of great conversations here too. And then there's like some some deep conversations. Yeah, don't worry about it. Apologize for the question. It is a pretty intense one, man, and I don't think it's something I should be afraid to answer. I just don't have a great answer. Is ultimately I think I came around to. I was just kind of walking and talking, but yeah, hopefully that helps you. Uh, yeah, somebody mentioned about burnout and leaving the business. Yeah, I mean, dude, I have known people who have not just left the business, they left this world because of the stresses that were overwhelming for them. I would lie to you guys to think that it is an easy gig. For me, I think depending on your job too and where you work, it can be harder than others. I will say that doing more illustrative and conceptual work tends to not be um, that overwhelming compared to my 3D friends, my 3D comrades, like people who make 3D assets. That is just far harder to create that type of content, and so it tends to take longer, and tends to take people a lot more effort, you know. And so, but what I will say is that I think that this shift, because of like stuff like AI and like a lot of AAA games and studios just not doing as well as they once did in the past. And then the evidence of stuff like games like Balatro, which was made by one person, almost winning Game of the Year, and then you have um, an animated movie made by a small team using a free animation software, Blender, won an animation award. Like this is like giving me more and more evidence that this is more likely the future that we are walking and running into, is that there are going to be smaller and smaller and smaller creators making our own shit. That's what I'm saying, like a renaissance, because there is an overwhelming amount of us that are incredibly talented and have lots of really good ideas. And if we sharpen these skills to present these ideas and to show these ideas to people in a way that can get them incredibly inspired man, I think it's going to be awesome. And like many things, I'll do my best to lead by example rather than just speculate, you know, because that is all I can do. But with that being said, I got to get out of here. It's been a good hangout, though. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, the world is pretty intense, and I try to stay out of it for the most part. Because I'm already pretty stressful in my day-to-day life without all this other stuff that's going on, you know? But I also try not to ignore it a lot. I've been thinking a lot about what ways can I contribute to things that I think are worth fighting for, but then also how do I do it in a way that just allows me to also do the thing that matters to me a lot, which is cherish the people and the things around me. Like I said in a couple videos ago, my best friend lost his brother in a horrific accident. His brother was very young, was pretty much around the same age as my oldest son. So it's like, although there's a lot of stuff going on in this world, and I wish there was more that can be done, peripherally, like, yeah, I got my kiddos, and I want to make sure that they know that Pops is around as well. And while we might be lucky in our circumstances, I should be grateful for this luck, you know? I'm lucky in a lot of ways, from like the country that I was born in at the time that I was born, to the opportunity of the career that I chose and the effort I put into that allowed me these opportunities, and the people that support me and love what I do and how I do things makes me really lucky, you know? So I want to be sure I'm grateful for that luck. But it is hard, dude. I am with many of you on a lot of things, I'm sure. I have very, very strong opinions about what's happening around the world, but it's just, it only makes me sad and angry. And that makes me less productive. And it really doesn't seem like there's any purpose behind it. So I just want to make sure that if I do something that is cool and I like to do it, it's because I like to do it. It's optimistic, it's forward thinking, but it also gives opportunity to maybe have some sort of commentary, even if it's super subtle, even if it's within a fictional world and universe. Because that's pretty much what I can offer, at least for now. I got to get out of here. You guys have been awesome. Great commentating, comments, and commentary as usual, y'all. I'm happy that I did the stream, though. Like I said, I was going to do like a video, but I was like, oh, let's mix it up. Let's mix it up today. Let's do a live stream and put that out instead. Yeah, I've been keeping track. I've been hitting my quota. I've been feeling really good. I think I've been doing this since March 3rd. So what is that? In May 3rd, that'd be 2 months. June 3rd, right? Wait, March, April, May, June. Yeah, June 3rd is the goal. If I can get to June 3rd, that means that this is a true full-fledged habit that I just built. But time will tell. With that said, though, I'm out of here. I got to get out of here. Well, wait a minute. What was my stream doing? Oh, is it just delayed? It's just like super delayed. Oh yeah, it's like crazy delayed. I like hit that like long ago. Anyway, all right, whatever. I got to get out of here. You guys have a good night, good day, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time zone. If you're feeling upset and sad about the things that go on in your life, try to find a way to let it out. Healthy, you know? If you're feeling good, if you're feeling happy, you got a lot of good things going on, you have your head in the sand, you have no idea what the fuck's going on around you, dude, share some of that bliss, bro. And with that, cheers. Have a great rest of your day.